This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets. Oil markets are bracing for the biggest shift in global trade flows ever, as nearly 3 million barrels per day of Russian crude oil and products will have to be diverted to markets outside Europe and advanced economies when European Union sanctions take effect in the coming months, Vitol executives said. The European Union will ban Russian crude imports by December 5 and Russian oil products by February 5, depriving Russia of oil revenues and forcing one of the world's top oil producers and exporters to seek alternative markets. The group of 7 nations, led by the United States, plan to keep Russian oil accessible and minimize supply disruptions that could cause prices to spike by imposing a price cap on Russian exports.
Global oil stocks are set to rise next year amid weakening demand and a stronger U.S. dollar, executives at an oil conference said on Monday, adding that OPEC will have to cut output to reduce supply if they want prices to remain supported. Oil prices climbed past $100 a barrel after Russia, the world's largest exporter of crude and fuels, invaded Ukraine in February. But prices have come off their peaks by nearly 40% amid fears that an economic slowdown would weaken demand. Brent crude and U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, prices slid to 8-month lows on Monday, last trading around $85 and $78, respectively, weighed by a stronger U.S. dollar and concerns that rising interest rates will tip major economies into recession and cut demand for oil.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
German utility RWE has signed a deal with Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, ADNOC, to deliver liquefied natural gas to Europe's largest economy by the end of December, RWE announced on Sunday. Though the initial amount to be delivered is relatively small, it's a politically significant deal to shore up supplies of gas from outside of Russia as Chancellor Olaf Scholz seeks to deepen ties with the Gulf and find alternative energy sources. The deal, which includes a memorandum of understanding for multi-year supplies of LNG, came on the second day of a 2-day trip to the Gulf region by Scholz.
Oil prices hit 9-month lows on Monday before recovering to stand higher on the day in choppy trade, as recession fears and a strong dollar spooked the market where participants were waiting for details on new sanctions on Russia. Brent crude futures for November settlement were up 72 cents, or 0.8%, at $86.87 a barrel, having earlier fallen as far as $84.51, the lowest since January 14. U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude for November delivery dropped as far as $77.21, the lowest since January 6, but was last up 86 cents, or 1.1%, at $79.60.
Next, we have the top news in metal markets.
Copper prices fell to 2-month lows on Monday as fears of a global slowdown, weaker demand, a higher dollar and climbing stocks in London Metal Exchange, LME, registered warehouses sparked a sell-off. Benchmark copper contract on the LME was down 0.2% at $7,416 a ton at 14:45 GMT from an earlier $7,292.50, the lowest since July 21. Doom and gloom about growth and repercussions for demand, the stronger dollar and inventory increase are pressuring the base metal complex, a metals trader said.
The European Union should bar Russian diamond imports and blacklist diamond miner Alrosa and its head Sergei Ivanov, Transparency International told Reuters on Monday, as the 27-nation bloc prepares new sanctions over Russia's war in Ukraine. Galvanized by Russian President Vladimir Putin announcing a partial military mobilization and issuing a thinly veiled nuclear threat to the West, EU countries were quick to say last week that they will respond with new sanctions. 2 diplomatic sources, however, told Reuters on Monday the process would take time as the 27 EU countries need to agree unanimously in order to impose sanctions. We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector. Soymeal prices in China, the world's top consumer of the animal feed ingredient, are at record highs as rising demand from farmers follows months of lackluster soybean imports. The surge in spot prices to an average 5,352 yuan, $747.94 per ton on Friday could curb enthusiasm for expanding hog herds, supporting hog prices that have already rallied about 40% this summer. China's soybean crushers, who turn beans into protein-rich meal to feed animals and into oil for cooking, have scaled back purchases of soybeans in recent months due to high global prices and poor demand from the livestock industry.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.